What is going on, guys? MJ2005 Gundam here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the full Mechanics Raider Gundam from Gundam Seed. One of the second generation G weapons using trans-phase armor. It's a relentless and demonic killing machine in the hands of President Clotho Bure. Now, as my first full mechanics kit coming from having only built a handful of master grade kits, the box contents frankly do not feel any different to the typical master grades that I've built, as it contains 17 runners, a tiny sticker sheet, a huge marking sheet, and its own wire. However, despite the seemingly high parts count, the internal structure is relatively simple to put together, similar to a high grade for the most part, though the dark plastics are still quite susceptible to nut marks, and there are tricky bits here and there, like the torso and the feet, and especially tying the knot on the wire for the hammer. Otherwise, the build is quite enjoyable, refreshing to what I've built so far, and can serve as an entry to the 1:100 scale kit as it is relatively simple to put together. And right out the gate, the full Mechanics Raider Gundam looks astonishing. While I still stand firm in not being particularly fond of the Raider design, the full Mechanics kit knocks it out of the park. While the proportions aren't a 100% translation, the changes that they made, like the larger shoulders and the bulkier shins, does make the Raider look like the powerhouse that it is. Not only that, the amount of surface detail and color separation is off the charts. Despite being black, the surface detail still manages to stand out to the eye, and not one bit of the kit looks dull. Even the small bits like the vents, thrusters, and mouth cannon are highly detailed. The only stickers included are for the eyes and sensors, discounting the decals, though you will lose this functionality if you do use them. Apart from that, everything you see is made with plastic, from the grey and red thrusters, to the red dots on the head, from the black rim around the eyes, to the yellow on the wings, and even the red rings on the front skirt and red insides of the crotch. They are all plastic pieces, which is mind-blowing considering that this is not even a master grade. Despite that, there are no seam lines to really be found, and panel lining efforts can be fully devoted to the lighter pieces. Genuinely, I find it hard to criticize anything about the looks of this 19cm tall kit, and it genuinely blurs the line between the full mechanics and master grade kits, since this kit can really stand up to master grade territory in terms of aesthetics. For articulation, the head is on a relatively unimpeded ball and neck joint that does benefit from the transformation, but do be careful of the V-fin colliding with the nose cone when rotating it. The arms can be pulled out on a double hinge for maximum forwards movement and a perpendicular arm raise, since the arm itself does not raise much without hitting the concealed machine gun barrel. The arms can also rotate until it hits the wing. There is a bicep rotation, double jointed elbows, double ball joints at the wrist and the wrist guard, and ball jointed thumb. Waist crunches aren't impressive by default, but you can get a lot more out of it once you extend the torso. However, the waist rotation remains limited by the claws in the wings. All of the waist skirts can move, and the front and side skirt assembly can move out slightly. The legs can drop down at the frame, and the thighs have a minute side-to-side swivel, all of which allows for full front splits and full side splits. There is a thigh swivel, double jointed knees, movable thruster units, ball jointed thrusters, and decently flexible multi-jointed feet that can point their toes down. The wings can swivel in and out, slide out on two different points to open up for the transformation, and the main thruster is ball jointed. Finally, the claws can fold out on two joints, swivel, and rotate at the claw, as well as close with two joints, and they can also adjust at the side skirt. Altogether, the articulation of the full Mechanics Raider Gundam is quite good, while the no polycap build helps the overall integrity. Although it is kinda hard to overlook the various points of limitation, as that does hinder posing options. For accessories, the Raider Gundam comes with a pair of holding finger parts and a right side only trigger finger part, the latter of which is for use with the hypervelocity shield cannon, which has a sticker for its scope. It's a bit tricky to set up, but it can be held up with no issues. Alternatively, the handle can be stowed away and the shield can be plugged straight onto the arm. I prefer it to be arm mounted more than handheld personally, although it will more easily get in the way. Next on the list are the claws and the Ahura Mazda plasma cannons in their palms. They look properly deadly and can be swung forward for use. The final accessory usable in mobile suit mode is the Mjolnir spherical breaker, and it looks good with the surface detail and lethal looking spikes, but I can't for the life of me lift the bugger up. I guess I'm not worthy apparently, but the Raider Gundam is, according to Odin, as I can lift it up with no weight issues whatsoever. But the real party piece is the cable stored within, as you can extend it by pulling on the head, and you can mount the head onto the special adapter and the included display base to set it up, as there is no way in hell the thin wire is holding it up. The wire is not worthy after all. And if you decided you had your share of fun, you can simply wind the wire back up into the hammer for storage, which is a really innovative feature for a Gunpla, and I cannot get enough of it. Finally, there is a custom stand adapter for the backpack to prop this kit up on an action base, though you must provide your own as this kit does not come with one for the mobile suit. To access the other weapons, the Raider must be transformed into its mobile armor mode. It's a fairly simple process of raising the head, opening the shoulder hatches and pushing out the machine guns, dropping the shoulder armor before bringing the barrels all the way up and closing up the panel, bringing the claws forward, plugging on a custom stand adapter before dropping the legs, and activating the reverse knees that interestingly has an automatically transforming panel in the shins while locking themselves in place, plugging the thighs into the adapter and the shins into each other, pushing up the leg thrusters, dropping the toes, and finally extending the wings, plugging the shield onto the left shoulder, and Mjolnir on its crotch. Prop it up using Mjolnir's adapter, a special landing gear piece, and the clear display base, and you're all set for low altitude poses. Or use the large peg of the crotch adapter to properly send it aerial. While the full mechanics kit is a good representation of the alt mode, I am never really a fan, as I really just feel like it's the designers trying to force in a transforming mobile suit for Gundam Seed while being a poor ripoff to the Gundam Airmaster. Though you do gain access to the machine guns on the shoulder segments, and the machine gun in the nose cone that automatically extends its barrel when you open up its hatch, which is a really nice touch, especially combining the amount of detail they put inside of the hatch. You can also use its claws as extra appendages or firepower. The final accessory for the alt mode is a pair of adapters. These clipped onto the wings and serve as feet mounts for the full mechanics Calamity Gundam, though unfortunately I don't have that kit, so I really couldn't demonstrate that feature in its entirety. But speaking of the full mechanics Calamity Gundam, you do get a ton of joint parts left over from that kit. You also get a few adapters from the display base to use to your own liking. Despite my initial lack of interest towards the Raider Gundam, this is a kit that I strongly recommend that you try out. I needn't gush more about its looks, as it looks just top notch even from a quick snap assembly, thanks to its heavy use of color separation and high amounts of surface detail, all from a relatively simple but still somewhat tricky build. The weapons are fun to mess with, especially the wind mechanic in Mjolnir, given that you can lift it up of course, the features when transformed, especially the feet mounts for the Calamity, which validates displaying the parity of the face-on shield alt modes. Not to mention the process itself is ingeniously engineered at the sacrifice of some articulation, especially in the arms and the waist. But that by no means is saying that it's shabby, as it is still bloody flexible. All in all, this is definitely one kit that you should at least experience, and it might as well have been marketed as a master grade with this level of quality. Only way to make it better is to have water decals for it. And that's all for me. Thank you for watching, drop a like and comment if you did enjoy the video, subscribe for more content like this, and feel free to follow me on social media with the links down below. That said, take it easy, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.